Alright, welcome back to another video on the channel, and today with the new Valorant map Abyss being released, I figured it'd be kind of fun to go through and rank all the Valorant agents based on how good I think they would be on the map. And yeah, I hope you enjoy. Be sure to subscribe if you are not already, and let's get into the video. So I want to go through and hide each agent, or like rank each agent on this tier list. So God tier is going to be like, basically God tier is going to be like, okay, you need this agent on the map. Like, this is like a non-negotiable. Like, you need it. Playable is just gonna be like, yeah, like they're valid. Like, you can play them. Probably not your best options, but you know, has potential. I mean, I think this is that little bit more of a stretch category where you're not gonna see a lot of them, but when you do see them, you know, there is still a good amount of potential for them. So, you know, like, it is what it is kind of situation. Is like, you know, it's whatever. Like, you're not thrilled to see them on your team. And then I will dodge is going to be if there's any agents where I'm going to be actually like pissed if I see them on my team. We're going to start with Astra because that's who I selected first. I think Astra has a lot of potential, but I think it's like a very situational, because obviously there's this star right here. So you can like suck them off the map. So it's very situational in my opinion. I do think that Astra is very playable. I don't think she's God tier. I think there's a lot of agents that are better than her and other controllers that are even better than her. But I do think she is God tier. So we can move on next. We're going to go to Breach. So with Breach, I think there's an infinite amount. Like, I think he is one of the few agents that doesn't have any mobility, that I think is still going to be extremely strong here. Because you could definitely set up your team. This mid is so wide open. You could definitely just set up your team with some blinds here and just completely blind all of mid. Anyone holding mid. At least in the pro scene, I think Breach will be picked a lot. But the ult just covers a substantial amount of sight. And for that reason, despite not having any mobility, I do think he is an like a God tier agent. There's really no other explanation for that. Pros are saying like he's an absolute must play as well, and I truly do see that. I'm honestly not gonna even go into Brim. I'm not even gonna go into the game and do it. I'm not gonna like dodge if there's a Brim on my team, but if Brim is my like only controller, it's just kind of like an situation. I feel like Brim is just not strong here. The map is so wide open and like big that I think Brim just is not the move. I don't think Brim is the move at all. The smoke situation, not good. And he has no mobility. I mean, maybe a Brimstone Molly lineup, but even then there's a lot of obstacles in the way. So I'm not even going to get into it. Brim is just to me. I do think there's a little bit of potential with Cypher, but it's nothing crazy. I mean, you could do like a tripwire like this, so they can't jump here. But honestly, I think this map is not super Sentinel based. Like, there's just so many paths that I don't think Cypher trips are actually all that useful. I would rather see a Cypher over a Brimstone. So I do think there is potential with Cypher, but I wouldn't say it's anything more than that. Also with Jett, I mean, Jett's kind of self-explanatory, I feel like. Jett has some post-plant stuff right now, at least. I think it will definitely be patched. But you could literally just updraft, and you can literally just float for the longest time. And obviously Jett is just good with mobility anyways. So you could just shoot anyone that's like trying to defuse the bomb. And you could stay up here for a pretty good distance of time. Like, you could float for like 25 seconds and just stall for your team. Which I think is super strong as is. And I think with Jett, you have the updraft. So with this map having a lot of verticality, I think Jett will still always be a little bit viable here. I definitely think she is still very playable. And I think she will still see a relatively high pick rate. I just don't think she's the best duelist. I think there's I think there's definitely at least 2 duelists that are better than Jett. So we're gonna put her in playable because I think Jett will always be playable, especially on most maps. I'm definitely excited to actually knock this one out. But Omen, obviously, he's the one controller that just has an insane amount of mobility. He still has 2 TPs. He still has, you know, the TPs are super cheap. So you could definitely just use them every single round. Which is actually like super, super sick in my opinion. And again, you could just do some crazy TP plays. You can like, you know, jump off the map and then TP back onto it. Like, it's just something that we've never seen before. And I think for that reason alone, like, I think this is like Omen's best ever potential map. I'm gonna put Omen into God tier. I think Omen has to be a God tier. Like, if we're gonna have a controller, I want Omen on my team. I think, honestly, I don't think you need a controller on this map necessarily. It definitely helps out a lot, but Omen is gonna be that #1 controller. I don't know. Phoenix is just a weird agent where I feel like he's just kind of in a stagnant point in the game. And he doesn't get picked a lot as is. And I feel like this map doesn't help his case at all. I don't see him being picked at all. So I will put him down in the category. Because it's on the same scale as Brim, where it's like, sure, there's going to be some people that probably try to play him. But again, like, it's just not, like, it's not, I don't think he has potential. I don't really think he's playable, and obviously he's not God tier. But again, I'm not dodging, because if someone's playing Phoenix, they're likely just on a burner Smurf account, just having fun and whatever. All you need at that point is just to be able to frag out and, you know, whatever. Despite Raze getting nerfed, I do think that she's still really strong. Because again, we're talking about agents with mobility, and I can't satchel to save my life, but anyone who's able to satchel is just definitely gonna have a good time. And you could get to some very advantageous positions in a quick amount of time just by using Raze. And honestly, that's all I really gotta say there. I think Raze will be very playable. And I think her pick rate will be about 50% in comparison, like next to the next duelist or like the other duelist that I think is super viable. I think Raze will definitely go ahead and be God tier on this map.
I'm not even gonna pull up Sage because honestly, it's like Sage is on the border between and I will dodge. Of course, there's always gonna be those couple of Grim style players where they will just go ahead and, you know, do their Grim walls and get some cheeky kills. But aside from that, like, I just don't ever want to see a Sage on my team for this. Truthfully, I don't know how else to describe it. I don't really want to see a Sage. Like, Sage is really on that border of, like, I will dodge. I do think I will dodge if I see a Sage, personally. I don't know. It might be a hot take. I'm not really too sure. I'll be kind of curious to see what people say down in the comments below. But, yeah. I'm going to do a couple of these agents that I don't think are super beneficial to actually load up in-game. ISO is kind of in that same realm as Phoenix for me, where we kind of just, you know... in a sense, I think ISO is a little bit more useful than Phoenix. Because the wall, you can definitely create some space. You can take mid with it. You know, you can throw your wall down mid and walk down with it. But outside of that wall, I just feel like, kind of like with ISO, like, kind of with Reyna, like, ISO is kind of a very self-centered duelist, and there isn't too much that you can do to set up your team, especially with this map being so big. So I'm going to put ISO in E. Again, I'm not fully like, oh, I'm going to dodge, but it's kind of like one of those weird situations where I don't really want to see much. I think Sova's a weird situation for me because with how condensed this map is, if we, you know, take a look at this map, there's just so many corners that honestly, I don't think Sova is that good at all. I don't think Sova is good, personally. I don't really ever want to see a Sova on here. Of course, there's going to be people who make lineups for shock darts and whatever, but in terms of initiators, I think Sova is honestly the bottom of the barrel when it comes to initiators. I don't play Sova as is on any map, just because I don't know how to play Sova, but even if I did know how to play Sova, I just am not okay. Sova's a dodge for me. I think Sova is like a big troll, and I think anyone, like, unironically just playing Sova on this map, it kind of gives me the same feeling as I do when it came to Split and Sova. I don't think Sova was ever that good on there. Some team, like, people would force Sova at times, but I don't think he was ever, like, an X factor, and honestly, it was just kind of mediocre. So I'm gonna put Sage and Sova here together for sure. Let's skip ahead a little bit. I'm gonna pull up Neon. because I think Neon is really, really exciting to talk about.
So Neon with the buffs, Neon just runs significantly faster. And I do think Neon has a lot of potential with how big this map is and like rotations and stuff. I do think this is one of Neon's strongest maps. Before this map, I would say Neon hasn't ever been this strong since Pearl. Because I think Pearl is kind of very similar in that regards. So I truly do think that Neon has a lot of potential. And I definitely would not be upset if I see a Neon, especially if they know how to play Neon with the buffs. I will definitely not be upset with Neon. So I'm gonna throw Neon in the God tier section. Because I do think on this map, I do think that Neon is by far like the second best duelist after Raze. I do think Raze is slightly better, but yeah. Oh wait, I think it was like this. Oh yeah. This is the only thing that Viper I feel like is good for, and even then, I don't think it will last that long. Because I mean that's kind of broken, you know. I don't think it lasts that long because then it kind of just makes it nearly impossible to retake. But outside of that one single ult that I think will eventually get patched, she's just kind of eh. And honestly, I'm going to throw her in dodgeable. I don't think she's strong enough to put in eh because I wouldn't want to play the game.
With a Viper. Reyna, despite all the, the nerfs / buffs, whatever you want to call them, I do still think Reyna is definitely playable. I don't think she's god tier on this map, particularly. I do think she has a lot more potential for outplays now than she ever did before. But I will put her in playable. I'm not going to be upset if I see a Reyna. I will definitely still play my fair amount of Reyna on this map myself. But I'm going to throw her in playable. Sentinels are just kind of in this weird space where I think if you use them correctly, I mean, KJ can definitely lock down some areas and watch some things. But again, like, we're just looking at the map. Like, this map is so massive that, you can only hold so much with your util. And KJ ult is pretty useless. And everything else. Honestly, I'm actually going to demote KJ. I'm going to put KJ down to E. I think Cypher is better than KJ. Because KJ is util, you have to be within the radius to keep it online. And the map is so big that if you're rotating, you're not going to be able to keep your util online for that much, actually. So I'm actually going to demote her.
While we are talking about Sentinels, I actually want to talk about Deadlock. And surprisingly, I haven't really ever played Deadlock. But I do think that if there is a map that does have some Deadlock potential,
30 seconds left.
It honestly would be this map. Unless they perfect the quiet jump and make it so that you don't make any noise when you're jumping here, most people are just going to make noise and trigger this. And I think there's just a lot of potential out of any Sentinel. I do like Deadlock a little bit more than any other Sentinel. Especially with how buffed the wall got. I mean, the wall just covers this whole area. And so they at least have to shoot it or burn util. I think Deadlock has a lot more control over any other thing. So honestly, this is a super hot take. And it might be the craziest take of the entire video. I'm gonna put Deadlock in playable above Cypher, which is actually insane. But I think Deadlock has the most potential out of any Sentinel.
Skye's kind of a similar boat to Sova for me, where the map is just so condensed that I just don't like how condensed everything is. So I kind of am indifferent about it. I mean, the dog and flashes are always going to be okay, but on this map, I feel like it's not Skye's strongest suit at all. In terms of duelist, Yoru is an interesting one. Because we have, Phoenix and Phoenix down here in A tier, and we have Raze and Neon because of their mobility here, and Reyna and Jett are just like here for me. But I think Yoru is one of those things where I think it just needs some time to resonate for me, because I think you could definitely do some very crazy Yoru lineups, but there is a lot of potential of you falling off the map with your lineups if you don't get it like pixel perfect. So I'm gonna throw him in pass potential, especially with how big and wide open mid is. A Yoru clone could be deadly there, so we're gonna throw him in pass potential. We're just gonna have to see how the lineups for all this stuff plays out. Kayle, I feel like I need to actually mess around a little bit with KO's knife. Because again, I haven't seen KO picked a lot in my little bit of watching. I mean, the knife, like, that's the issue, is if you look at the map and just, like just how, like, small the radius is for how big the map is, like, you're burning it to clear, like, one tiny corner. So, honestly, I don't think KO is that good, necessarily. I don't, like... Initiators are in a weird spot. So I'm gonna actually throw KO. I'm gonna throw KO down here in, like, And this is like the bulkiest section, because these are the agents that I just, like, I don't know. Maybe they'll resonate over time, but at the moment, I just don't see them being played that much.
These ones are the ones that are like, I don't see them being played ever. These are like, okay, they could be maybe played a little bit. These are like 50, you know, a 60-40. You know, they could be played, they could not be played. It is what it is. And then these are the 8 so far that I expect to be played all the time. And actually, we're gonna throw Gekko into playable. And not because I don't think he's actually that great in gathering information necessarily. One of my favorite things that I saw on the reveal was being able to use Wingman and plant from here. And him being able to jump. So you can kind of just do some crazy things, and like by using Wingman to plant, it allows you to get into a better post plant position instead of having to manually plant the bomb yourself. So that's kind of my thought process there. I think he's definitely playable, not for the sense of getting info, but yeah.
And then Chamber I'm actually going to throw into has potential. Out of all the Sentinels, Chamber has the most mobility opportunities. So I do think there's a chance that Chamber has his place. But right now, it's just going to be a play by ear kind of thing. He's lingering between playable and has potential. Oh, shoot. I think it just crashed my game, actually. It just ended the custom because of that. But honestly, there isn't much that I want to do left in the actual custom map itself. So yeah, Chamber is definitely lingering back and forth here. I do think he's borderline playable, but for the sake of, like, he still can't really hold sites. He can definitely do some crazy TPs, but he still can't really hold sites well, so I'm going to throw him down here. I'm not really sure exactly where he's going to be at yet, but it'll be interesting to see. Harbor, honestly, I have him, he has potential as well. I think a Harbor Omen comp together could go really well. I think if you're running solo controller, you can't just run solo Harbor. I think you still need the Omen. Like, if you're running solo controller, then it needs to be Omen. But I do think Harbor has some potential here to work well in tandem with Omen, but it's very situational. So I don't want to put him into playable because it is very situational. Clove is kind of one of those agents that, it's a duelist. I'm going to put Clove in playable just from the aspect of Clove feels playable on most maps just because you do get controller. You get smokes from the controller aspect, but then you can also play Clove like a duelist, and I think that will just make them playable regardless in any situation. And then Fade is kind of just an to me. Because again, initiators are just in a really weird spot where, I mean, unless you're running double to even triple initiators perhaps, Fade is kind of just in that weird spot where you're going to burn a dog to clear like one corner and that's it. And I feel like you're not going to get a lot of value out of her util. But yeah, I mean, I think this is looking pretty solid for my overall opinion. Again, this is without me even playing the map. My first ever time loading up into the map was that custom that you guys saw. So I haven't actually played the map in a game environment yet. So at the end of the day, take this with a grain of salt, because one of these agents down here in or even I Will Dodge, maybe they are super good and I just don't realize their potential yet. But this is just based off of my very raw, I've watched the map a couple of times, that kind of thing. And yeah, so.
But yeah, that's all. And let me know what you think of the tier list down below. And I will see you on the next one. I hope you enjoyed, and be sure to subscribe. Peace.